Hello, the evening news from the television company Ostankino with an overview of the most important events of the day. Russian diplomacy is attempting to save the situation in Bosnia-Herzegovina. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Andrei Kozyrev, paid a blitz visit to Belgrade. The presidential envoy of Russia, Vitaly Churkin, attempted once more to conduct peace dialogues with the conflicting sides. And yet, the situation today around the Muslim enclave of Gorazde makes matters uncontrollable. A major catastrophe for humanity could be the situation around Gorazde, which has gone out of control. This is the opinion of the commander of the peacekeeping forces in Bosnia-Herzegovina, General Rose. Louder demands are being heard to withdraw UN soldiers from the volatile region. After the NATO bombings, not one of the warring sides wishes to continue dialogues, and it is unlikely that bloodshed will cease in the near future. The Serbs and Muslims are firing at each other, and at the same time both denying it. The UN High Commissariat distributed information on casualties within the city. More than 300 residents have died and 1,000 injured. Casualties from the Serb side are not being reported. It's only known that the city is fully encircled and all access points to the city are under control, and Serb forces are not permitting entrance into the besieged city of reinforcements from other Muslim territories. For now, the possibility of launching a new bomb attack on Serb positions is not excluded. This policy of NATO countries, in the opinion of the world press, was an example of the full helplessness of the West in the questions of regularizing the conflict in former Yugoslavia. Instead of demonstrating decisiveness of NATO, as President Clinton wanted, the air bomb attacks in Bosnia showed everyone the uncertainty in the correctness of the approach in Bosnia. One mustn't forget the thousands of peaceful civilians and UN soldiers who are hostages of this aggressive approach. Yes, the seized 16 Canadian soldiers and 3 military observers were freed by the Serbs, but no one can give a guarantee of the safety for the rest. Such a development of events was predicted by independent observers, and many hoped that Russia would help, which could stop the escalation of tension near Gorazde, as it happened in February in Sarajevo. However, now the fall of the besieged city could happen at any moment, and even the urgent arrival of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Russia, Kozyrev, could not significantly change the situation. Vitaly Churkin, disappointed with the results of the continuing talks, stated today to our special correspondent Alexander Lutskin. The situation, in my opinion, is almost uncontrollable and absolutely unexplainable in any rational or logical terms. They ostensibly agreed to evacuate the ill people from the city, but now there are reservations because of helicopters begin to fly and there's a large number of refugees. Panic could begin, and they're trying to think through how to do it. I only have the hope that there will be no more firing over the city, and especially it would be a great catastrophe. They attempted to seize the city because this could lead to colossal bloodshed. And after this, if we somehow manage to emerge from this humanitarian dead end, we'll see how events develop further. Almost 2 hours ago, the agency Etartas distributed an urgent announcement of the leaders of the Bosnian Serbs in which it states that all Serb forces near the city of Gorazde were given a strict order to immediately cease military activity and to withdraw their troops to a radius of 3 kilometers out of the city. This statement, however, contradicts the latest reports of the representatives of the UN humanitarian mission in Gorazde, where, according to them, during the last hours, mortar and shells continue to explode and shooting from firearms is underway. According to world information agencies, the situation in Gorazde could be resolved today during the day. The press are quoting the leader of the Bosnian Muslims, which says that if Aliyev Izetbegovic says that if Gorazde falls, the moral duty of the Secretary General of the UN, Boutros-Ghali, will be to resign. In this situation, Russia continues to fulfill her obligation with respect to UN peacekeeping forces. Tomorrow, over the Balkans, 200 Russian paratroopers will land who will replace their comrades in the peace mission. In all, 600 servicemen will go to the Balkans, 400 will be stationed in the Serb Krajina, 200 in Sarajevo. Reinforcements will be received by Ukrainian peacekeepers in Sarajevo. Today, on an airplane of the Military Air Force of Ukraine, a group of military servicemen flew out. It's planned to situate them around Gorazde. Today in St. Petersburg, the annual conference of the Board of Directors of the European Bank of Reconstruction and Development was held. The aim of this conference is to summarize results of work and discuss strategy for future years. In the conference, there were 5,000 representatives of financial and industrial groups participating. At the opening, the chairman of the government of Russia, Viktor Chernomyrdin, delivered a speech. The Prime Minister noted the significant role which this financial organ plays in Russia's transition to market economy. Viktor Chernomyrdin expressed hope that the Bank Forum will expedite the process. After the speech in the palace, the head of the Russian government, Viktor Chernomyrdin, visited the plants of the Russian diesel company. These enormous production areas were built and equipped by Finnish specialists. Almost 400 diesel engines for shipbuilding the energy sector should have been produced here. Today they're producing not more than 100, and even it is not so simple to sell them. The directors of the company put hope in government aid. At the Kirov plant, which after the Russian diesel Viktor Chernomyrdin visited, one of the constructors emphasized a convincing plea not to provide aid. We're not asking for help, comrades. We want the creation of jobs to produce those items which the Kirov plant is manufacturing and will manufacture. The Kirov workers do have something to show. The problem is to mass produce innovations. There are no resources or funds. Today for the 300 model tractor, there are 12,000 customer orders, but the customers have nothing to pay with. Non-payments for production departments, closed unemployment. This was reported with bitterness to the Prime Minister by the workers and directors of the plant. They asked support of the government in these difficult times for the domestic producer. Today in Kazan, the session of the Supreme Soviet of Tataria opened. The session will discuss the budgetary letters of the President of the Republic and will examine a series of other current problems. And what today's discussion concerned was the recently signed, between Russia and Tatartas, the agreement on the division of objects of control and mutual delegation of powers, which concern all sides of both the economy and politics, especially since in the Republic this document is not uniformly viewed. The leadership of the Republic of Tatarstan is extremely interested and I would say concerned with the need for a full maximum realization of all positions in this agreement. Today we're developing a concrete projects, and with this aim lately very important consultations took place for us with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Andrei Kozyrev, and the employees of the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we're working on the 13th intergovernmental agreement which must reflect questions of the coordination of the Republic Tatarstan and the Russian Federation. Partially it has been signed. And one more question at the session outside of the agenda, the reforming of the representative and executive branches of government. The deputies here have taken a clearly subjective stance. The economic and political reforms must have adequate controlling structures. Therefore, in the agenda is the question of reforming the Cabinet of Ministers and the Supreme Soviet of the Republic, Tatarstan. The preliminary results of the elections of the government organs of power and organs of local self-rule were summarized in the Republic of Karelia. The elections in Karelia were held pervasively, except for the city Kostonokshe. Participating in the elections were 42% of the voters, which is significantly higher than in neighboring regions in Russia. The conclusive victory was held by the candidate for post of the head of government of the Republic with presidential powers, the head of Karelia, Viktor Stepanov. Confidence was expressed in him by more than 68% of the voters. Among the deputies of the new two-chamber legislative assembly, the leading positions will be occupied by the communists and the bloc of avant-garde entrepreneurs. Having their own lobby in parliament will be agrarians and timber sector employees. As previously, the majority of deputies, the heads of local self-rule, are directors of industrial companies. Local analysts noted that future deputies, despite the diversity of their programs and political leanings, are unified in one thing: they don't see the Republic outside of Russia. Boris Yeltsin signed a decree on the construction of the capital of the Republic of Ingushetia. At the same time, the President of Russia supported the initiative of the Republic's outlying areas and districts on joint building of the capital of Ingushetia. They're planning to build it near the river Sunja, a few dozen kilometers from the populated point Nazran, which currently fulfills the function of the capital. On one side of the Caucasian mountains is Russia, on the other Georgia. The border between them one may call transparent. There are no border posts or patrol points. Meanwhile, Georgia is a sovereign nation. The Stalin-Beria regime, which resettled in 1944 to Central Asia, Balkars, Ingushetians, and Karachay and Chechnya people gave part of their territory to Georgia and Northern Ossetia. Now these people have been rehabilitated, but the expropriated lands have been returned, although not to everyone. And now there is a need to establish a well-defined state border. This important matter was delegated to a commission on delineation of borders. It is composed of specialists from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Cartography, the Ministry of Defense, and the border troops of Russia, as well as representatives of all Northern Caucasus republics. I'll clarify that delineation is to establish by agreements of the governments of adjacent countries a general direction of the passage of the national border, and to draw on a geographical map the relief and demographics of populated points. The commission visited Krasnodarsk region and now in Kabardino-Balkaria. Later it will go to Dagestan. Delineation is the first level of establishing national borders. Later there will be demarcation, that is, conducting a line of division on site and identifying it with corresponding border symbols. The President of Russia issued today instructions which regard relations of the federal powers with Chechnya. It prescribes to the government of the Russian Federation to hold consultations with representatives of state power and also all political movements of the Chechnya Republic with the aim to solve the current social-political situation and prepare a project of an agreement to divide matters of jurisdiction between federal organs of state power and organs of state power of the Chechnya Republic and mutual delegation of powers. Meanwhile, Russia continues to discuss the project of the agreement on civil accord. The task force on preparation of the document appealed to citizens and social organizations to send their comments and proposals on the text of the agreement to this address: Moscow, Old Square, House number 4, Office number 340. Preparation of the agreement on civil accord is becoming a leading theme of the consultations of the President, Boris Yeltsin, with leaders of factions of the State Duma. Today, the President met with the heads of the Deputy Association New Regional Policy and Nikolai Medvedev, its head. The opinion is being expressed to the project of the agreement on achieving civil accord by social organizations. Representatives of the Association of Peasant Businesses and Agrarian Farm Co-ops see in the document not an idyllic picture of non-conflict, but refusal in using violence in disputes and measures to prevent civil war. Agreement and stability must be established not for the sake of a static condition, but for economic and political reformation, it says today in the distributed statement of the Association of Peasant and Farm Businesses. The farmers hope that the President and the government will take upon the responsibility to deepen land reform. Of concern today for rural workers is preparation for sowing work. The situation in providing technology is extremely critical. According to Tartas, 1/4 of the tractors and rural vehicles must be completely written off. Another quarter needs immediate repair, but these machines will not enter the fields because they have no necessary parts. The plants which produce them sharply reduce their production. For more than 4 months, because of a full financial bankruptcy, the Vladimir tractor plant is at a standstill. The same fate is shared by Beleg Selmash and Belinsk Selmash, the only countries producers of technology for potatoes and linen. Today also the Tulsk Komban plant stopped operating. The solution, according to specialists and vehicle manufacturers, see in the government liquidating its debt to the agrarian sector for last year's technology. This debt is currently 300 billion rubles, and also in providing the rural vehicle manufacturing sectors subsidies of 250 billion rubles. Prior to going into the village, we flew over the fields with the flooding commission. There, under a layer of water, lie plowlands with satisfactory winter-sown crops, which were counted on here. In Tavarish Suvorovsk, where we landed, we talked to specialists, and they said the harvest will be realized no matter what. We'll work by group methods, and all the technology will be gathered, and we'll choose lots where the land is ready for work and work there first. This plowing here has begun already, but the problem is that the technology is desperately lacking. There's no money to buy, because for last year's crops, the government has not yet paid. If previously we could sell 10 bulls and buy 1 combine, today, in order to buy a combine, we need 150 bulls. The enterprising individuals here are helping out. They established their own on tool and lathe tables and are making their own spare parts. Because of the fact that we have no oil, this tractor is ready and prepared, but we can't let it out in the field. There are many problems. Farmers of the neighboring Spassk region even call for a strike, but probably here this call will not be supported. We need to sow and to live further. The peasant cannot strike. The Russian Auctioneer Society Gazprom decreased deliveries of natural gas to Moldovan consumers by 1/3 because of Moldova's debt, which as of the 1st of April 1994 was 131 billion rubles. According to Interfox, in 1994, Moldavia did not transfer to Gazprom's account a single ruble. During 17 years of the drill sites of the oil-gas procuring companies, Holmagor Oil, such a case occurred for the first time. For 12 days, the 70 normally functioning drill sites were stopped. But not the strike was the reason. Strikes, according to oil workers, is not the way to fight for their rights. The price of stoppage is 200. The cost of stoppage is too expensive. They resorted to stop productivity by oil refining companies which would not receive raw materials. The fact is that 60,000 tons of oil were not pumped. And the problem is that the technology can be restored, although the meter which records losses cannot be stopped. The most tragic is that stoppage of the oil drill is the reduction of productivity of the stratum. And these losses cannot be recuperated. Today, all the oil drill companies of the Tyumen district are in a critical condition. And how this will reflect on the economy of the country is obvious. Hello, Moscow News, Channel 1. In order to phone from Tver to our colleagues in Ostankino with the help of this radio telephone, only 10 seconds were necessary. Yesterday, this was still impossible. But today, there are no problems. In Tver, a radio telephone network has begun to function, or as they say, cellular communications. Having acquired Moscow and St. Petersburg, it finally has stepped into the province. And it was done by domestic efforts in partnership with the Moscow Cellular Communications Company. During the next years in the area, 20 more stations will be developed. The communications workers hope that by then the radio telephone will be accessible for farmers, the village doctors, and other people with average salaries. But for now, it is an expensive pleasure, and also because cellular communications is only beginning to acquire Russian expenses. And the first victory, this expense between Moscow and St. Petersburg, and in the middle, Tver, will now have full access to this miracle telephone. We would like that in Russia. It wouldn't be like in some countries of Central Europe. Recently, there was tie with Tver, a tie with Orlov, tie with Tula. The tie must be federal. The basis for federal communications is federal standards. Today, we are present at an event in the development of federal standards toward the direction of the Northwest. In the next 10 years, the cellular phone will appear in almost all cities of Central Russia. We continue the broadcast. Not only Moscow, but all Russia said goodbye today to Nikolai Afanasyevich Krychkov because this name is known in our country to almost everyone. Were you in love with him? No, I wasn't in love with him, but we liked him very much. He's a simple Russian person. He's the truest actor. To replace him would be very difficult now. If people approached him with a request for help, he never said the words, "I can't." Of course, those words which are said here about him are all true, but it seems to me that they're not sufficiently intense to express that grief that Kolya has left this life. In his warm voice, he used to say, "Mishka, how can it be so?" But this was not only said to me, but to many comrades. how can this be? We have to do something. We must help somehow and be elbow to elbow with each other. And this was how Nikolai Afanasyevich Kryuchkov was the star of our cinematography. The fourth day of the official visit to Finland ended for the delegation of the State Duma of the Federal Assembly of the Russian Federation, headed by the chairman of the State Duma, Ivan Rybkin. The last day of the visit was the most full. Especially in the morning, there was a meeting with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Finland, Heikki Haivisto, during which they discussed the situation which has developed in Bosnia and the question of Finland's possible entry into the European Union and Russia's into the European Council. Later, members of the delegation discussed the potential of developing Russian-Finnish trade and economic relations with the Prime Minister, Esko Aho. In the afternoon, the delegation visited the Parliament of Finland and was hosted by the President of the country, Martti Ahtisaari. During these talks, the chairman of the lower chamber of the Russian Parliament addressed the Finnish leaders with the request that Finland, as a friendly neighbor, took on the role of mediator in questions of regularizing problems connected with the withdrawal of Russian forces from Estonia. The chairman of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, Yasser Arafat, arrives today in Moscow with an official visit. He hopes during the visit to gain from Russian leadership an activation of Russia's mediating role in the Middle East regularization. Until recently, keeping his portraits or displaying them on the walls of buildings on occupied territories in eastern Jerusalem could have landed one in prison. But what do we say now about contacts with Palestinians? Now the situation has dramatically changed. The portraits of Arafat are posted throughout, and talks with him are held by the Prime Minister of Israel, Yitzhak Rabin himself. This became possible after significant diplomatic efforts and a change in the positions of the warring sides. Now they are partners in dialogue, during which they wish to achieve an agreement as a result of which it would be possible to stop the Israeli-Palestinian clashes and achieve agreement on cooperation between them. Now these talks are in the final stages. Observers feel that the document may be signed as early as the beginning of May. This will allow to achieve the limited Palestinian autonomy. However, this is a first concrete step in a long road of normalizing relations. Seems the heightened activity of Russian foreign policy in the Middle East is accepted by the participants of the peace process and yields its first fruit. Meanwhile, Israeli military specialists have prepared their own plan for peaceful regularization on the occupied Golan Heights. The project includes a gradual withdrawal of troops. However, although it does not state that the withdrawal will be a complete withdrawal, they announce also the establishment of a full-scale future relations between Israel and Syria. This plan will be first given to the American Secretary of State, Christopher. Ceasefire in Kabul is impossible until the president of Afghanistan, Burhanuddin Rabbani, resigns. This was stated today by the leader of the Uzbek militia, General Abdul Rashid Dostum. The Dostum formations, controlling as a minimum 8 provinces in the northern Afghanistan area, together with the forces of Islamic Party of Afghanistan, Gulbidir Hikmatyar, since the beginning of the year protested the president. This opinion was presented to the peace mission sent by the UN to Afghanistan. Rabbani has only 1 month left, and later his remaining as a head of state will lose lawfulness, said Dostum. As is known, in June of last year, the leaders of groups of Afghan Mujahids agreed to give Rabbani presidential powers for a 1-year term. The King of Norway, Harald V, and Queen Sonja arrived today with a 4-day official visit to the Federal Republic of Germany. For the first time after Germany's unification, the triumphant greeting ceremony of dignified foreign guests occurred in Berlin. In the ancient palace Bellevue, the royal party was greeted by the president, Richard von Weizsäcker. The ruling Japanese 7-party coalition agreed today on the last details of the cabinet's platform in solving financial problems in foreign policy. If this work is accepted as successful, then in the next few hours, the leaders of the coalition will sign an agreement on the government coalition, and immediately after that will officially name the current Minister of Foreign Affairs, Tsutomu Hatu, the new Prime Minister of Japan. The Champs-Élysées in Paris has lost its dual significance as a site for military training and parades. Other parades are being organized here, like this 4th International Salon of Museums with 15 European country participants. 2,000 museums gathered under one roof in order to know each other better, exchange experiences, and acquaint themselves with collections which are presented here in original form. Europe, in all her diversity, was represented at the Salon, not only in museums of art and history, but also archaeology, science, technology, as state and private as well. For the first time, participating in the Paris Salon were several famous museums from Eastern Europe. The first presentation was made during that week by 37 various museums from Russia, whose collections unconditionally deserve the attention of the world museum community. And can one speak of the high prestige of Russian museums at the international level? As far as collections and showings of our collections unconditionally, but we still have many complications in producing our own souvenir products and publications and organizing specialized tours for tourists. Therefore, we must learn simply to advertise broadly. And here we see that advertisement is the main component of the commercial activities of any museum. Today is the International Day of Preservation of Monuments and Historical Sites. The government of Moscow therefore coordinated today the conclusions of the results for the first competition for the best restoration and reconstruction in the historical zone of the capital. At the competition there were 14 objects. And how many more Moscow monuments need immediate help? The ancient country estates. In Russia there were thousands of them, and only a few were not burned or pillaged, but turned into museums. And when one observes them, we see how much love and care was invested into creating them in order to perform the highest deed, to create something worthy of the public's awe. And this is what the Count Sheremetyev wrote about the famous Ostankino estate. The creator of all this magnificence, who had visited the Versailles Palace, truly created a miracle. Nowhere in Russia nor abroad can one see something similar. Vases, lamps, finely decorated ornaments, all of this is made out of wood. The palace was at one time the awe of kings and tsars by its decor and luxury, and today simply decays from within. A complex hydrogeological atmosphere has developed within it, and if not immediately corrected, it can make one predict that within 5 years all this magnificence will collapse, and possibly during that time there will be no trace left of the unique English park, since part of the Ostankins' historical territories belongs now to various organizations who simply through horrifying apathy are destroying this monument. We await the aid from the Moscow government, although if one speaks on this day of preservation of monuments about the situation in the country, in my opinion it's absurd, because billions are invested into the Novosти to restore monuments which were destroyed and completely destroyed at the time when there are tens which are unique and must be preserved even now. And one truth comes to mind: what we have, we don't take care of. When we lose it, we weep.
Вниманию российских экспортеров. Инкомбанк предлагает услуги по оформлению паспортов сделок и проводит документарные и гарантийные операции на международном уровне. Наш телефон в Москве 230 64 79. 230 64 79. Инкомбанк.
Для акционеров московской недвижимости. Банк.
Средств АЛД надежно разместит ваши средства в московской недвижимости, обеспечит вам стабильный доход в размере до 45% годовых в СКВ, до 350% годовых в рублях. Обязательное страхование вклада сведет ваш риск к нулю.
Это Россия. Это совокупное достояние России. Это мы. Это 160-миллионная часть достояния России, твоя часть, твой ваучер. Как распорядиться ваучером? Тем более ты не один. Кому доверить? Лидеру или аутсайдеру? Доверяя свой ваучер МММ, вы связываете свое будущее с лидером российского бизнеса. МММ Инвест.
Достойная старость каждого. Первый пенсионный фонд.
To complete the picture of the day will be information from our sports commentator Anatoly Malyavin, and I wish you all the best. What do you think? How much steel can a human lift in 10 minutes? The weightlifter from Tajikistan, Jamil Shakirov, answered this question. 4 tons, a new world record. The weightlifting championship in Kazan was won by Russian weightlifters. Among our outstanding strongmen, the Siberian 2-time Olympic winner, the 4-time world champion, the unbeaten Alexander Karelin. In Greece, the 26-year-old Hercules became the record holder of the European Championships, winning for the 7th time the gold medal in Greco-Roman wrestling. Hello. Well, a tribute to the Russian land, as we say. We congratulate our athletes with their new accomplishments. Let's not forget those people who, because of circumstances, became handicapped. For them, the Spartak tournament in memory of the legendary goalie of this team, Vladislav Zhmilkov, in Moscow. The tournament, for the first time, is international. The soccer amputees of 4 teams, Russia, Ukraine, Uzbekistan, and Germany. And it's not important who won in these competitions. It's the same case when everyone was a winner. And again, thanks to Spartak, which on the eve of the birthday of the famous society organized this tournament for the handicapped. The Russian team before the World Championships in Italy left for a series of friendly matches to Germany and Austria. Meanwhile, its competitors are also preparing for this tournament. The Olympic champion Swedes beat the Finland team 4-0. The team of Germany lost to the Czech team 2-3. Switzerland or Latvia? On the Danish ice, it was being decided who would play in the final World Championships for next year. A consistent battle brought victory for the Swiss team of 2-1, who received a pass to the highest class of world hockey. In the matches for the Stanley Cup tournament, New Jersey and Buffalo, Alexander Mogilny, leader of the offense in Buffalo, who brought victory to his team, will probably not be able to help the Russian team at the World Championships. The Formula One drivers have a housewarming in Japan at the speedway of the Japanese Labyrinth, where there was the second level of the race. The victory was celebrated by the German driver Michael Schumacher. The one-day race in France is unique, a unique event in the world of motors. On the Le Mans Speedway, the drivers from England and France under the flag of the Japanese company Kawasaki were the fastest in this 24-hour speed marathon. And also in chasing speed was Thomas Easton, driving a car with an unbelievable force, 2,000 horsepower engine. After starting, crashed, and so did his hopes. The racer was not injured.
Как распорядиться семейным бюджетом? Непростая ситуация, но решение принято. Прошло 3 недели, промчались как один день. В ожидании худшего они вновь на Варшавке 26.
Это лучше, чем стипендия.
Это больше, чем стипендия АО МММ.
Успех для всех. Торговая компания «Ростислав». Выбор есть. Первый пенсионный фонд.
Дорогие акционеры, владельцы даже одной единственной акции концерна «Гермес» рано или поздно станут обладателями благоустроенных квартир. Россия будет процветающей страной. Желаю вам счастья и здоровья.
Первый пенсионный фонд. Участником становится каждый россиянин от ребенка до пенсионера.
Good evening. According to the information of the Oceanic Meteorological Center of Russia, the cyclone, which is moving from Poland tomorrow, will adversely affect the weather in the majority of the European territory of Russia. In the Nenetsk Autonomous District in the Republic of Komi and the pre-polar Ural region, in a zone of atmospheric fronts, precipitation is expected. Wind gusts of up to 15 meters per second. Temperatures at night, 0 -5 during the day, +3, 8. On the Kursk Peninsula, Karelia, Leningrad, and Arkhangelsk districts, cold air is moving in. It will be partly cloudy, at times rain and snow. The winds are from the northeast, 10 to 15 meters per second. At night, 0 -5 during the day, 0 +5. It will be colder in the Baltic countries. Temperatures at night +3, +6. During the day, +5, +8. The central Chernozem areas will be in a zone of atmospheric fronts. It is expected to be cloudy with periods of rain. At night, +3, +8. During the day, 12 to 15 degrees above zero. Warm weather without precipitation will be on the central Volga. The day temperatures in the region are 15 to 20 degrees. Weather conditions will become worse in south of the southern Russian parts of the lower Don and the Krasnodarsk and Stavropol areas, partly cloudy with torrential rains with possible thunderstorms. At night, +8, +12. During the day, +17 to 21 degrees. On the lower Volga, intermittent cloudiness without precipitation at night. The temperature will be +7 to 10. During the day, 15 to 20 degrees. In St. Petersburg, tomorrow will be cool and windy and unfortunately rainy. At night, +1, +3. During the day, +4, +6 degrees. In Moscow, cloudy weather with periods of rain. The temperatures at night, +5, +7. During the day, 8 to 10 degrees above zero. The winds from the southwest to the northwest from 5 to 10 meters per second. And this is the weather expecting us tomorrow. Goodbye.